Continuing where we left off, great esoteric, arcane hidden wisdom will be revealed. It will become very interesting to understand and realize that the ultimate key in this awareness that reveals that words as an array of thoughts are what actually create the reality we experience as the collective agreed upon experience through a quantum array of frequency and sacred geometry. It is the word as energy that's the underlying collection of thoughts that are projected upon the screen of our collective experience as energies that are arranged into various patterns. And those patterns are all vibrations of frequency which galvanize and solidify the evidence of the reality that we see. Sacred geometry and numerology construct of our perceived reality was understood by the Egyptians. It was taught to Pythagoras when he went there to study in the mystery schools, where he spent 22 years of his life learning these keys to the universe. He states that in essence, the fundamental values and labels of creation can be expressed in numbers, and that effectively all of creation is the outpicturing of the frequency of the 9 basic numbers. Hieroglyphics are an amazing array of images. It is literally a language of life. The Egyptians created using these holy characters, which were called hieroglyphics. That was the meaning of it, holy character. And they originally numbered 360 over 3 variant types of groups of these characters. This was eventually refined into 24 script letters, 7 of which were vowels. They used language to define the elements of creation as well as the means to precipitate the reality that they chose to manifest. This was accomplished by working with the natural formula of creation, which allowed them to literally master the elements and command their galvanization form. A refined script that ultimately became the basis of language for many other places. It is thought that perhaps Moses took what he learned in Egypt and brought it out, which ultimately created the Hebrew language. It is known that he wrote the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible. The Hebrew language consists of 27 letters. 22 are consonants, 5 are vowels. Slight derivation from the 7 vowels that the Egyptians had. We will come to understand the significance of the 7 throughout this material. Perhaps this is an aspect of the lost wisdom of Moses. Much of his wisdom was transferred orally. It's most interesting to see that the hidden knowledge was encoded somewhat in the Bible. For in Acts 7:22, Moses was instructed in all the wisdom of the Egyptians. Therefore, he would have been able to read and write and went through the mystery schools and had an understanding of the sacred language of life, and the numerology and the sacred geometry, which is reflected in the fact that 722 results as 7 divided by 22 results in 3.5 1:4, which is the ratio of pi. And still, much was left hidden. Until now, we are revealing and recalling the lost wisdom. Even the Great Pyramid had wisdom and knowledge in its geometry and numerology encoded within it. Revelation chapter 11, verse 1 says, "And there was given to me a reed like unto a rod. The angel stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of God and the altar." Perhaps it becomes clear that this was in fact a statement relating to the Great Pyramid, when one understands that the precession of the equinox shows that the pyramid dimensions exist within the structure. For the sum of the pyramid's two base diagonals reference pi and equal the precession of the equinoxes as 25,827 years. For the distance from the ceiling of the king's chamber to the apex of the pyramid equals 4,110.5 pi, which is the radius of a circle whose circumference equals the precession of the equinoxes, divided by 4,110.5 times 2 times pi, which equals 25,820 years. It's the most amazing. And that the perimeter of the 30-foot block, the course of blocks around the pyramid and its construction at that level, where the blocks are much thicker than any other, this gives also the figure of the precession of the equinoxes. So, encoded within this, or beneath the surface of understanding, is a further glimpse at this language of light. And the Jewish mystics had a similar understanding, which was emphasized in their ancient text called the Zohar, and an understanding of numerology and these things. It was plain because they stated that the Bible is only the garment or the outer skin, and that the words are not as important as what is hidden underneath the surface. So these teachings reveal that there are secret codes hidden throughout all of creation, which unveil the truth about us and our reality. Within the Kabbalah and the Tree of Life, we will find other forms of this hidden wisdom. It's pretty commonly understood that there's 22 pathways to enlightenment in this teaching, and that this diagram reflects that, as the lines between the circles here. The Tree of Knowledge is a depiction of the Sephiroth, the 10 Sephiroth or nodes, and 22 pathways as a means through Jewish mysticism to attain enlightenment. Once you traverse this path, it becomes clear that there's a missing element here, which is called a blinder, which is intended that once you reach a certain level of understanding, it becomes obvious that it has to be there. This is what's revealed as the 11th Sephiroth, as the bridge to higher dimensional consciousness. So, what do we have here? 11 plus 22 equals 33. This is a divine code. This is the Ascension Code that's also built into the construct of the pyramid and the array of information that we find when we look at the Giza Plateau and things that will be revealed in this material, echoing that beneath the surface is this greater awareness that hidden within ourselves is the key to divine ascension, the ascension of consciousness. Here we see the tree of life inside of the seed of life within the flower of life, which was found in the Assyrian temple in Egypt and made popular by Drumble and Melchizedek. So this knowledge, which gives us access to an awareness of such things, becomes our experience of becoming self-realized or accessing divine consciousness. While the universe may appear to be in chaos without the right formula or understanding, one is left to be bandied about by others' belief systems. Knowledge brings order into focus more permanently and clearly. Then we can manifest our own reality. Just as if soup was made with the wrong ingredients, it wouldn't be soup at all. It would be, in fact, bad tasting due to the lack of synergy between the elements. So if we're not aware, then what choice is there? When we become aware, it's understood that ignorance is simply a lack of knowledge. For there is an Ascension Code. There is a way to become divinely aware, and it was taught in the mystery schools. And it is interesting that the word ascended also adds up to 33. So we're unveiling a code, many codes, frankly, that have been hidden, that are fairly obvious when viewed through the right lens. So through this lens, it is understood that Jesus was part of a greater and earlier mystery school. He was taught many secrets, which we will demonstrate were numerology, sacred geometry, and other subtle sciences. All this led to the greater mysteries and the initiation into divine consciousness, ultimately the ascension of consciousness. Many have sought this information over the years and have clung to a limited awareness of these numbers that have been repeated throughout these ancient manuscripts. Whether they understood them fully or not is regardless to the point. It can be shown where these numbers come from and what they mean. 72 and 144 will be such numbers. Ascension Code can be deciphered, and it will reveal 1122 as a very integral component of the Giza complex, the plateau, and the structure, and the understanding of this sacred knowledge. It is astounding to realize that many of these words describe the story, carry the frequency, carry the message, and that when one can crack this code, cipher, seals are revealed. There's an astounding amount of information that comprises this understanding, which is detailed in the book. These patterns and signs literally show up everywhere. In the temples, within the higher understanding of the tenets that were taught in the mystery school. It all boils down to accessing our divine consciousness. That we literally are multidimensional beings that actually don't even originally come from here. How many have shown this way before? How many have recalled this truth? Even though the Bible has many truths within it, a lot of information has been lost. For example, why was Jesus brought to the Great Pyramid when he was a child? Past lives were a reality in the ancient days. There's many examples of it being talked about in the Bible. A case can be made that many souls return over and over again to bring forth this information and teach the hidden wisdom that gives access to an ascended consciousness. It's interesting to note that in the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus Christ, the 40 days that he spent in the desert were actually spent being initiated in the Great Pyramid. As it states there, he received a secret name on Circle 7. There is some evidence in the Bible that suggests that they knew about this, or they knew about these secret chambers, or they knew about the existence of this sacred place, border of the desert, within the monument. Because when it says in Matthew 24:26, if they say unto you, behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chambers, literally being a room or holies within these temples and structures. Believe it not, alluding to that he has ascended, so you will not find him there. However, this is where the ascension of his consciousness took place, in these secret chambers. He was 33 when he ascended. This is all telling a story about the activations, the access to divine consciousness or oversoul consciousness as your total self. With this information, we can create our reality. The number 22 is very significant. Here, as part of the Circle 7 title, it plays an important role in a number that represents completion, a complete circle. This is reflected by the 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet, 22 T's in the Latina, which one means letter, thus indicating a full circle or a cycle of experience. Again, going back to the tree of life and the knowledge that one traverses these paths into enlightenment. And 7, Circle 7 represents the perfection of a human being and the divinity within, the ascension of consciousness. Thus, a reflection again of the function of pi, 7 by 22, is one of the cycles of the human experience divided by the spiritual value of 7 as an encoded title, master of this dimension, this experience, this reality, this cycle of existence. The proof of a secret order teaching the mysteries is really encoded everywhere and can be found everywhere. One looks through the right lens for this. Here we have an ancient manuscript that says, when Peter died a martyr, Mark came over to Alexandria, bringing both his notes, those of Peter's, which when he transferred to his former book, the things suitable to whatever makes for progress toward knowledge or Gnosis, was placed within this material. And thus he composed a more spiritual gospel for those by use who had been perfected. The term perfected is used in the Gnostic mystery school to mean initiated. Nevertheless, yet did not divulge the things not to be uttered, nor did he write down the hierophantic teachings of the Lord, but to stories already written he added yet others, and moreover brought in certain sayings of which he knew the interpretation would, as a mystagogue, which literally translates as one who spreads mystical doctrine and initiates those into the secret order, would lead those who have ears to hear into the innermost sanctuary of the truth hidden by 7 veils. Very interesting reference, which is repeated in several places. Thus, in some, he prearranged matters neither grudgingly nor incautiously, in my opinion, and dying, he left his composition to the church in Alexandria, where even yet it's most carefully guarded, being read only to those who are initiated in the greater mysteries. So here we have a very precise communication about being initiated into the truths hidden by 7 veils, and that there is the existence of lesser mysteries and greater mysteries. So perhaps echoing that to Jesus, rather from Jesus, the multitudes were taught in parable, and the apostles, those that were the neophytes into the mystery school, were taught the deeper hidden meanings. It is most profound as we proceed into this material to see how, viewed through this lens, everything starts to add up. This will now conclude part 2. Please join us while we continue in the unveiling, revealing of the hidden wisdom around the ascension of consciousness through the activation of awareness around numerology and sacred geometry, especially pertaining to the month of November and the date of 11/22. And this significance will also be promoted in this series of videos. Thank you for your time and have a blessed day.